Ever attended a church service or watched a sermon on television and felt a twinge of doubt about the authenticity of the preacher's intentions? Perhaps you've wondered if some religious leaders might be leading their congregations astray. Consider the unsettling instances where individuals are instructed to abandon their prescribed medications in favor of remedies provided by their church. Such actions can lead to severe health consequences. False prophets. They are not a new phenomenon. From ancient times to the present day, they have appeared, claiming to speak for God, yet leading people astray. Their words are smooth, their promises enticing, but their hearts are far from the truth. This tension between spiritual authority and personal responsibility is not new. Throughout history, individuals claiming divine insight have wielded great influence, some for righteousness, others for personal gain. One such figure was Balaam, a man of great renown in his time. Balaam was a prophet living in the land of Pethor, near the Euphrates River. He was known far and wide for his ability to commune with the divine, a man whose words carried weight and power. He had a family, 2 sons who looked up to him, and a household that depended on his wisdom and influence. But despite his spiritual gifts, Balaam's heart was divided. He loved the voice of God, but he also loved wealth and honor among men. Though the Bible does not provide extensive details on how Balaam became a prophet, it is clear that he had some knowledge of the true God. Some believe he was originally a genuine prophet, while others suggest he was more of a diviner, using spiritual practices to gain influence. Regardless, he was sought after by kings for his ability to bless and curse. It is uncertain whether Balaam had successfully cursed people before, but his reputation suggested he wielded such power, making him a highly valuable asset to those who sought to manipulate spiritual forces for their own gain. As for his wealth, Balaam seemed to be neither exceedingly rich nor destitute, but he clearly desired greater riches, as seen in his willingness to negotiate with Balak for personal gain. Throughout history, prophets, diviners, and spiritual leaders have used their influence to amass wealth. Many ancient religions thrived on high offerings and paid for prophecies, where the wealthy could buy blessings, and the unfortunate were coerced into giving what little they had. These practices often laid the foundation for cult-like followings, where spiritual power became a commodity. Balaam, too, was drawn into this temptation, allowing his prophetic gift to become entangled with personal ambition. This practice continues in modern times, where some religious leaders exploit their followers with promises of prosperity in exchange for extravagant offerings. It was during the time when Israel journeyed through the wilderness that Balaam's name became entangled with destiny. The Israelites, fresh from their victories over mighty kings, approached the land of Moab. Balak, the king of Moab, feared them greatly, for he had seen what had become of those who stood against them. In desperation, he sought out Balaam, believing that his curses could weaken Israel and turn the tide in his favor. Balak sent messengers bearing rich rewards, pleading with Balaam, "Come now, curse this people for me, for they are too mighty for me. Perhaps I shall be able to defeat them and drive them out of the land." Numbers 22 verse 6. Balaam, knowing that he could not act without divine permission, sought the Lord. The answer was clear and firm: "You shall not go with them. You shall not curse the people, for they are blessed." Numbers 22 verse 12. Balaam sent the messengers away, yet his heart was restless. But Balak was persistent. He sent even greater princes, bearing even greater rewards. This time, Balaam hesitated. Though he knew God's will, the promise of riches stirred something within him. Again, he sought God's permission, as if hoping for a different answer. And this time, God allowed him to go, but with a warning. He was to speak only the words that God commanded. As the sun rose over the plains of Moab, King Balak stood in anxious anticipation, expecting curses to fall upon the Israelites like a storm of destruction. But to his horror, every time Balaam opened his mouth, only blessings flowed forth. And so, in the presence of the frustrated king and his princes, Balaam lifted his eyes toward the Israelite camp. The Spirit of God came upon him, and he spoke one final oracle, words not of doom, but of divine favor. "How beautiful are your tents, O Jacob, your dwellings, O Israel, like valleys that stretch out, like gardens by the riverside, like aloes planted by the Lord, like cedars beside the waters. A king shall rise from among them, and his kingdom shall be exalted. Numbers 24, verse 5-7. With these words, Balaam sealed Israel's destiny with blessing. He declared their strength, their divine favor, and the future rise of a mighty ruler from their midst. His words, unshaken by gold or threats, stood firm. God had chosen to bless, and no power on earth could overturn it. Enraged, Balak waved his hand dismissively. Enough. I called you to curse my enemies, and behold, you have blessed them 3 times. Now flee to your place. I wanted to honor you, but the Lord has kept you from honor. But Balaam knew the truth. No earthly reward could compare to the word of the living God. He had spoken not as a servant of men, but as a vessel of divine will. With that, he turned his back on Balak's court, leaving behind a king stripped of his schemes and a nation standing under the unbreakable blessing of God. Thus, Balaam had outwitted Balak, not by his own cunning, but by surrendering to the voice of the Almighty. And though his story took a darker turn later, in this moment, his lips had proclaimed a truth that echoed through history. What God has blessed, no man can curse.